I'm Stefanie Leacock, here to tell you about my perspective on science and religion. I feel like my perspective is pretty unique because first, I'm a trained scientist with a PhD in genetics, but I'm also married to an Episcopal priest, which often shocks people. Second, my Monday through Friday job is teaching undergraduate biology here in Texas. But on Sunday mornings, you'll find me in a 4- and 5-year-old Sunday school class telling stories about the Bible. And I love both of these jobs, and having been trained in a program called Godly Play over the past year or so to teach in Sunday school, I've actually come to realize even more a lot of the similarities between the worlds of science and religion. To give you a quick example, one of my favorite Sunday school stories that I tell the children is The Great Family, the story of Abraham and Sarah. And in that story, I tell the children that Isaac and Rebekah had children, and their children had children. And this continued on for thousands of years until their grandmothers and grandfathers had children. I love that this story places all of us rooted in generations of religious peoples. It tells us that that is part of our identity. That is part of who we are. Much like I can't choose to be from a different place or have different parents, that is just a part of who I am. And that's the way Christian identity feels to me, that it's always been a part of my person. However, because I'm a geneticist, I know that that's actually also true on a biological level. My genes have been passed on for thousands of years before me, and that links me biologically also to generations of the past. So that's one similarity that I have found. The second is that in our Sunday school program, we try not to tell the children what to think about the story. We use wondering questions. I wonder what part of the story was most important. I wonder what part of the story was your favorite. I wonder which part of the story is about you. And similarly, in my other job, my biological job, I ask my students to think about what it means. So often, science has been taught to many of our students as a collection of facts in some of the biggest textbooks out there. Textbooks that maybe have 60 chapters on all different topics in biology, and they're presented as hard and fast truths. But several semesters ago, I said to my students one day, when we say something is true in science, it's because someone did an experiment to show that it was true. And to me, it feels a lot like a wondering question. Designing an experiment says, I wonder what would happen if I manipulate this variable. I wonder if this process depends upon this gene. I wonder how I could manipulate this system. Those are all variations of wondering. And when I have been realizing this over the past several months and years, is that that's what our brains really do as humans. We strive to wonder. And this is, I think, a feature that's shared between science and religion. And I hope that you enjoy thinking about that along with me. Thanks.